Welcome to tzuzamen.
Hi, Tzili. Oh, we're talking in English, right? Hi,
Doron
Doron.
Talking English. Hi.
Doron, Political Science, University of Haifa, the head of the Israeli Arab Center. Doron, we spoke a few times, and but it seems like that the rallies and the movement in Israel against the reform is growing and growing and growing.
Not
Can
enough.
you tell us a little bit what's going on in Israel?
I don't think it's enough.
Let him.
He will answer after I will voice my anger. Not enough. Now you can talk.
After you will say what you think. What do you mean it's not enough?
I thought it will.
What sense?
There will be more people
More
demonstrating.
people in the streets?
Yeah.
Okay.
But I think the numbers are growing all the time.
Okay. I think it's the first time that we have data. So if our listeners or the people who watch us now, so we can say that there is a strong support for the demonstration. I prefer to call it struggle, combat against the government, because I don't see it only as a demonstration. It's much more than demonstrating or a protest. There is a solid and growing support, and there's also a growth in the support to enlarge the range of the activities and the issues that the bloc against the government should deal with. And people talk about struggle against corruption. I'm surprised, but corruption all of a sudden became an issue. And something that I'm less happy is the relation between Orthodox and secular people, something that's become more prominent. And there is almost a consensus that the struggle should be about issues and agenda and less about changing the government. I mean, which is it's an indication that the bloc against the government is not exactly political, doesn't have a political consciousness. Thinks more in social terms or ideological terms, but not in political terms, not in terms of power.
But nobody talks about the occupation, right? Occupation is still outside the conversation.
That's very interesting. I'm serious. It's interesting, and it's not a coincidence maybe that you mention it, because there are people that start to talk about the necessity of talking about the occupation and about an alternative.
You know, it's interesting because for many, many, many years of occupation, nobody went to the streets to demonstrate against it. All of a sudden, now that it's really rough and there's a threat over the democracy, everybody's on the streets. But everybody among those who are in the streets against the government basically don't care about the occupation. It's two different things. And how can you divide it? How you can run democracy and occupy territories?
If I may say something about it,
yeah.
There is a phenomenon that we all should, I think, accept, that people do not protest against things that they think that they can't change. It's not that they don't care about occupation. Let me give you another example: slavery. People all over history thought that slavery is a bad institution. The vast majority of the population all over the history, even slave owners, they didn't think that slavery is a good thing. I think only Aristotle thought that it's natural and it's good, but if you put Aristotle aside, the vast majority of people thought that slavery is bad, but it's a necessary evil, because they couldn't imagine political economy without slavery. The moment that they could imagine a world without slavery, they started to talk against slavery and to do something against slavery. I think that the moment that we will put something realistic to stop the occupation, and people will think that it can be something that you can change, they will talk about it and fight against occupation. I don't think that they don't care just because they are indifferent or bad, or,
are not affected by it. It's not like being affected by...
I don't think so. I don't think so. I think that they don't see what's the point to struggle against something that you can't change. It's like the weather. Okay. It's the occupation. They think that we don't have a partner. They think that we can't meet, you know, all these kind of things. And I think that one of our missions is to put a plan, a solution to end the occupation. I can tell you that there are teams that started to work about it, because in the center, I get more and more people, serious people that start to organize teams and groups that think how to cope with the occupation.
But I want to ask you something, Doron, because you're concentrate on political science. And what
Yes.
happened now that the main reason of the whole thing that is going on is Netanyahu and his case. And basically, he gathered this group of people that I'm sure that he even doesn't like what they present, that they hold him and that he needs them. And it opened up the demons, all the demons. It brought out all the demons in the Israeli society in a very extreme, strong, powerful way. But it differs a little bit from the political thing. How do we go back to the political conversation and really change the main thing? And of course, taking care of all the social things, because it seems like the country was kidnapped by another group of people.
I don't think that the country was kidnapped. I think that we are now in a sort of a teco. How do you say teco in English? Teco? Two veto players. The government is a veto player. The society, the vast majority of the society is a veto player. And we are now, it's like a ceasefire. Nobody can do anything. And I think that either the government will give up. I think that the government will give up, and then we can move on and to think how to improve Israel.
Giving up.
It doesn't have. I don't think the government has any other possibility, because there are too many people. This is my estimation. I might be wrong, of course. I hope I'm not, but we all sometimes we do mistakes, even big mistakes. But it seems as if there are too many people that are not going to give up. They are not going to give up, even if the government will legislate all the laws it aimed and planned. Really, I don't see a scenario that all the people that you see in Kaplan, in Haifa, in Beer Sheva, all over the country, don't see how they say, okay, we lost.
No.
Give up.
We don't give up. I don't think
we don't give up. We don't. I
don't think.
I think it's about 1 million people that I'm not intending to give up. It's a lot of people with a lot of power. They are not going to immigrant. They don't have the option to immigrant.
They don't want to
immigrant.
They don't.
No, maybe they want. They don't want. Nobody's waiting for them. They know that they don't have. They can't immigrant. The people can't immigrant. Not 1 million people. And I think that they're not going to give up. And I think that the government simply, I mean, Netanyahu will have to, to do something. I trust that he still think clearly. And if he doesn't or he can't, there are other people
I think it's a great opportunity to reevaluate the content of who we are and correct it, or at least open something in order for better future in a way that would fit everybody. But for that, you need Netanyahu to back off from his case and his partners, and it's always like a landmine,
Yeah, but let me ask you something. How come there is not enough voices that tell about the damage done to every child in Israel who grow up, become a soldier, and sent to the West Bank? There is a fantastic, incredible damage, as a person. And, it's every father and every mother should think about it. What happened to their child once they are sent to serve in the West Bank.
To be in charge of civilians.
And I don't hear this narrative. I mean, it's almost like you have to, like a basketball bat, hit on people's head. Look at your child, what happened to him? Because if you send him, to any other border, that's one thing. But to the West Bank,
Or
what they
Gaza.
encounter, what they have to do, what kind of personality they come out. It's not just, now we talk a lot about post-trauma. But if you go to the West Bank, it's not, nobody talk about the post-trauma because it's okay. You go to people's house, you beat them, or, the post-trauma, this conversation is about people who went to the war, like, the regular borders, not to the West Bank.
So you're talking about the corrupting effects of the occupation.
Well, no, it's not the corrupting.
No,
what it does to their soul.
We're talking
when
about
the soul, the corrupting, it's corrupt their soul, it's corrupt their personality,
they're not sensitive to human suffering anymore.
Yes, it's a corruption of morality, of your
Or
character.
soul, right.
But so, unfortunately, I have to tell you that I agree in, in moral terms, and then if you talk about the corrupting effects of the occupation, I agree. I think that you don't consider what people get from serving in West Bank. First of all, you have a division of labor, also in the army. People like me do not serve in the occupied territories anymore. We go to 200, we go to intelligence services, people like me are doing a desk work, office, and the soldiers in the West Bank are from the lower staff. So, and they get recognition, they get money, they get a ticket, a mobilization for Israeli society. And you are expecting them to understand that their chance to be part of the Israeli story, the Israeli experience, to realize that it's corrupting them, it's too much to ask. If you want to enter, you understand me?
Of course, I understand. But I remember the first Intifada. And I remember the soldiers who came back home for the first time. I remember the faces. They were different. They changed. And I remember also how it triggered in certain people all kind of behavior that is not acceptable. And it was like an opportunity for part of the soldiers to do things that you don't do. But what happened is that all the time, we take 18, 19-year-old kids, we put them in a position of controlling civilian people. They control their passing to Israel. They control.
But what it tells you, they like it.
I
People who go there, they like it. I mean, this is what it says.
No, I disagree with you. Because you picture. You're telling us that everybody goes to the occupied territories, but it's not true.
That's what he says.
My son probably will not go to the occupied. I will not let him.
But not everybody that goes there is
no. But people that go,
he's right.
There is something that changed in the army. The army now is not inclusive. It's not there's not equality in the army. And the people that goes to serve in the occupied territories,
but we're talking about 40 years.
The periphery of Israel, and they get something as
that's okay with them. By the way, that's okay with them.
But you have to understand, it's okay with them, not because they are bad. You can say, okay, because they are bad. Why it's okay for them? This is their ticket to be a full citizen in Israel.
What do you mean?
To level.
I serve. I help you. I take care of your security. And you ask him to understand that he is corrupting himself.
But Doron, we're talking about now. You're talking about now. I'm talking about 40 years. Many generations of people like us. And there's a reason why they leave after they get out of the army and they disappear for months, and some don't come back, and just to clear their heads. You're talking about decades of a society that
But
it's
also a long
damaged.
time now that it's really
Damaged.
lawyers, people in the West Bank.
I agree, but if you want to stop the occupation, stop the damage, I think that stop talk about the moral issues and the corrupting effects and that the occupation is corrupting, like Yeshayahu Leibovich, which is everything is correct, but it's irrelevant. If you don't give them an alternative, it's like talking to, it's being moralistic. This is what I'm saying.
Yeah.
I'm trying to make both of you more political in the way you think. And
No, I just want most people in Israel to really, that it will touch them personally.
No, you
against the occupation.
Tzipi, I will not let you expect that people will understand something that everybody understand. Those who don't understand, you don't understand what will damage your pocket.
That's what I mean.
You understand me? They can't understand because they live from being part of the Israeli army. You're asking them, realize that what you're doing is corrupting you, stop doing it. And then what? What do you offer in
occupation?
No, he's talking
so
about
they
the
would be,
Israelis now.
To be a force in demanding to stop the occupation.
So my suggestion.
I understand what you say.
We understand what you say. We understand.
That's right. Offer them an alternative. Work on a coalition that do a different agenda. Maybe more people will come and will not agree to serve in the occupied territories. But if you don't offer them an alternative and you just give them a moral explanation why it's bad or why it corrupts them, people don't work like that.
Give me like an example of alternative.
Alternative for someone like me, I can serve in 8200. Or in to be an officer in the intelligence, I can do things, but and I have my parents, I have
and them
support.
And they don't. It's from the periphery.
This is their way to improve their condition in Israel.
So what do you?
Take them the army.
But what can you offer them as a politician?
What's the alternative for them?
I think that what we need really seriously is a policy that is also attractive for the periphery, the Israeli periphery.
Like what?
And we are not working about on an alternative that is attractive for the periphery. This is one of the reasons that you can see in the protest.
In a way, what happened in the field of soldiers, that the people who used to go to special units now go to 800, 200, and they go to all these units. So what happened is that basically you leave all the dirty job to these people.
Yeah, that was saying. Yeah.
So if you offer them the same, you won't have soldiers to fight.
That's right. Then you first of all, we don't fight. We're not fighting. We just occupy. It's occupation. It's not a war.
Yeah.
So if more and more people will think that,
but if you have a war, or if you have a condition that you need real soldiers, you won't have.
Oh, but then you can. People like me will serve everywhere. If it will be a more just army, we will serve like we used to serve.
Yeah.
But now, for the last 2 decades, you have a shift or a drift, or I don't know how to say it. And the people that serve in the occupied territories are people from the Israeli periphery.
Now, I want to ask you something since we touched this, because the whole discussion among the ultra-Orthodox, the Haredim, and the seculars and the regular Orthodox, and everybody wants them in the army, and everybody wants equal rights. I don't think they care. They just want their money and keep praying and studying, and they don't care to be poor as long as you leave them to live their way. Basically, they can go to these units, they can work computers, they can do things that they don't have to fight. I would rather that they would go to a national service than the army. And I think that we don't need to pay them so much, so then they have to work. So if they go to the army and they use the army as a school for units that they can give their service and then go to work, I don't think it should be another way.
She's optimistic.
I'm not optimistic. I'm just trying to figure out, because I'm not optimistic. I'm realistic, and I don't see that it's going to be solved so easily, if at all. But I think that by squeezing the government and taking more and more money for them to stay the way they are, and then they say, why don't they go to the army? I'm not sure I want them in the army, but there are units in the army that they can do. They can definitely do. And I think they shouldn't get so much money. And I think they should be pushed to study and to go to work. They can do both.
I think that what's happening in Israel now is this is the kind of issues that will not continue or will be like it used to be. I mean, this is the serving in the army, the status of the Haredim, the ultra-Orthodox. All these issues are waiting for a resolution or a new social contract. Seriously. I think that Israel, and I think that there is not anymore any we. Israelis are not thinking as we. It sounds idiotic or cynical to say we. There is no we. There is us versus them. And I think that after we will resolve the current stalemate, the crisis, you know, the relations between the Israeli government and its people, one of the things that are waiting for us is the service in the army. Personally, I don't think that the army wants the Haredim.
Right.
I don't think that the army wants the Haredim. I don't think that that people need the Haredim. I don't think it's necessary. I think we can find solutions for and other things, and not to enforce them. They will not go to the army. I think it's.
But they can. But let's listen. I think that
there are solutions. It's you know, it's the kind of things that politicians are living from. It's divide and conquer. It's not
not an issue.
But I want
this is not the issue. I think the issue is
for me the issue. Why not the Israeli Arabs to go to national duty? Why
the
not
issue? I think
Arabs?
is the government, is the agenda of the government. This is the issue, and the agenda of the government, I think, it's not the Haredim.
No,
It's the checks and balances. I call the people. Don't forget what is important and what is less important now. The most important thing right now is to stop the so-called reform, to change the power structure of Israel.
right.
The main issue is the fact that the Israeli government are trying to concentrate all the power in its hands. This is it. I think that the other issues are so minor, are so not the thing that we should struggle. Don't put more issues.
So, but this is what happened now. This is what happened now. Demonstrations are trying to widen the subject.
I think it's a mistake. It's a mistake. Don't widen issues that you demonstrate against. Fight against the government and then offer an alternative. But first of all, we have to stop the so-called reform. And the reform is not about the Haredim and not about the army and not about anything but the question of power. Who will rule and how? This is, I'm telling you as a political scientist. Seriously, we are being confused.
I know
talking
that
about checks and balances.
I think that many people are confused. That's why I asked you before to define what's the activity now is against what, because I think people are using it in order to throw their own things. And there are many issues, but you cannot move this way. You have to, first of all, take care of the government and then have a new government and then raise all the subjects.
This is what I think, and I think that the most important thing and the raison d'etre and the justification to stop, to block, to veto, to deteriorate everything in Israel is its intention, agenda to concentrate power. This is an illegitimate move. The other things are not.
I think if everybody would understand that if this government will be able to execute what they want, we're all going to suffer and we're all going to lose. So then maybe they would understand that it has to be changed. The question is, if we have someone or somebody or whatever that can take over. And
yes, but I think one of the reasons that I don't want to enlarge the issues is that I'm thinking about a coalition. If you want to stop the government, you should also think about a coalition. If you want a coalition, make a coalition about the issue that we're here because one issue, the question of power. Who will govern and how? The future of checks and balances, the future of liberal democracy, of liberalism in Israel. This is the main issue. And I think that we can find in the Haredim partners. We don't have to see them. They are our enemy, the settlers. We are not talking about, we are only the liberals. I think that we'll have more power if we will focus on the issue of checks and balances, the issue of stopping the so-called reform. Then, after the government will declare, I'm not going to do it. Then we can sit down, talk about the army. We can talk about how to improve the judicial branch. We can talk about everything. First of all, declare that you are not going to do what you intended to do. This is, I think, the goal.
I agree completely, but I still want to ask you, what do you think of my, I don't know how to say it, my almost like a feeling that the Israeli Arabs should decide to become part of the Israeli society. Is it possible? And do like a national kind of service, not army.
First of all, give them equal rights.
I agree. I think that it's too early. It's too soon.
We cannot ask anything from them as long as we don't give them what they should have.
There's discrimination, a structural discrimination against the Arabs in Israel. By the way, we acknowledged this fact years ago in an official document. So first of all, stop with the discrimination. When Israel will be a really liberal and equal state and society.
Why the governments are not taking it for granted to give them equal rights?
There are political reasons, there are, ideological reasons, there are many reasons. One of the things that we are trying to do in the center, and I hope that after we will stop the so-called reform, we will focus also on this, is to change the situation, to make Israel really a democratic society and a democratic state. This is one of the goals for the day, not the day after, but this is part of preserving checks and balances, because without checks and balances, and without the liberal dimension, it will be much more difficult to make Israel an equal and fair state.
Once there won't be a threat that no matter what, we are a Jewish state and we give equal rights to everybody, so then you can demand from all the citizens whatever they can give back. That's all.
But by the way, Tzili, maybe we will not have to demand. Maybe if we'll be a normal state, we'll realize we don't have to demand national service.
But, we have very long way.
Our imagination is we are so limited. We're thinking about then we will demand. Why demand?
Listen,
free country. Let's be a normal country. If we will not have Tzili, without occupation, with real liberalism, why do you think that we will need the army or
how the Supreme Court
didn't
decide? How the Supreme Court didn't fight for that, for equal rights for the Arabs?
It fought, but it had its limitation, because limitation of power. You see,
it cannot do for the government. The government has to do it.
The question if they. So who led the conversation about equal rights for the Arabs? Except the Arabs.
Wow.
It's
the civil society, organizations and associations in civil society.
Sure that Shulamit Aloni,
they didn't have any effect, right?
But Shulamit Aloni didn't have any, attachment or affiliation to Arabs. They are liberals, but they are very, very Western liberalism.
I think it's a very different situation now, and it's the first time that people are more involved in terms of really getting together.
It's lip service.
Which is even then, you know, the differences are so big and it's so hard to understand each other, but still we need to find a way to create the equal rights. We have to. We have to.
Yeah. Yeah. I think if we will stop the reform, I think we can be optimistic. Really. You stop the reform, you change the direction of the government. Hopefully you will change the government. I think that the camp against the government realizes that it needs the Arabs. I think once you realize that you need, for political reasons, you need the Arabs, then I think morality will come.
I hope you're right, because over the years, anybody who declared change with the Haredim, change with the Arabs, once they won and they came to power, it didn't happen.
Rabin, once he realized that he needs the support of the Arab citizens, he worked to improve their condition, and he did. Their condition was improved under Rabin's second government, for political reasons. Not because all of a sudden he had an enlightenment and he said, "Oh, I have to be, you know, I have to take care of the Arabs."
He came to Oslo for political reasons, but you know what?
Oslo, and then
political reasons are okay, are good, and there's something good coming out of it, so it's fine. We'll see. There's so much to correct, and there's a long way.
How can you keep saying a democratic country? Only democratic.
Let me end with one thing that I think maybe will make you a little bit more optimistic. I think that our weakness is the reason that I'm optimistic. We are too weak to be so ignorant and so racist.
Yeah.
And when Rabin realized that he's too weak to give up the Arabs, he thought, and he was thinking realistically and politically, and he realized that he needs them. And he needs them, he needs their support, and he needs to make them more legitimate. And then he started to talk about how it's disgraceful that we are not treating them right. So I think that people, not maybe Lapid, but maybe other people in the center, realize that they need the Arabs. And I think because of the need, because of the weakness, this is where I become optimistic, because we are too weak.
Doron, you have to go.
Yeah,
because we're late. Listen, thank you. We'll talk to you more near future.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Really, yeah.
And goodbye, everybody.
And goodbye. Yeah.
See you next week.